Right.
Now, full disclosure for everyone listening. This is written as a biblical teaching. It's specifically aimed at Christian women.
Which, I'll be honest, when I first saw the title, I thought, okay, is this just going to be a sermon?
I get that.
But as we read through it, the psychological framework here is just, it's incredibly sharp, regardless of where you stand on the theology.
Absolutely. Even if you strip away the religious language, the core argument is fascinating. It argues that overthinking isn't just a bad habit you break with a stress ball or breathing exercises.
Right.
It frames it as a much deeper structural issue. The human attempt to control things we were never designed to carry.
That is the mission for this deep dive.
Yeah.
You're going to unpack the source's central argument, which is honestly kind of confronting. It basically says, hey, that mental noise you're dealing with, that's not just you being detail-oriented. That is you trying to do a job that doesn't belong to you.
Precisely. It moves the conversation from how do I relax to who is actually in charge here. And that is a much scarier question to answer.
So let's get right into the definitions, because I think I've always told myself that my overthinking is just, me being prepared. I'm thinking through all the angles. I'm being responsible.
Sure.
If I don't worry about it, who will? But this source comes in hot with a definition that completely pops that bubble.
It really does. The source defines overthinking as meditation without trust.
Meditation without trust. Okay, unpack that.
Yeah.
Because usually when I hear meditation, I think of yoga mats and calming apps. I don't think of panic.
Well, think about the mechanism. Meditation is just chewing on a thought, right?
Yeah.
Turning it over and over, looking at it from every angle.
Okay.
When you do that with a promise or a hope, it builds you up. But when you do that with a fear and you remove the element of trust that things will work out or that you'll be okay, it becomes anxiety.
So it's the same mental engine just running in reverse.
Exactly. The author makes a very clear distinction here. They aren't talking about wisdom or discernment or planning. Those are good things.
Right. You need to plan your budget. You need to prepare for a presentation. We aren't advocating for just drifting through life.
No, not at all. But overthinking, according to this text, is the mind attempting to control outcomes God never assigned us to manage.
That hits hard.
Yeah.
It's the idea that there are assigned tasks for us, and then there are tasks that are just above our pay grade.
And the source uses this phrase that I found fascinating. It calls overthinking self-reliance dressed up as responsibility.
Oof. Self-reliance dressed up as responsibility.
Yeah.
I feel called out.
It's sharp, right?
Because it feels responsible. When I'm worrying, I feel like I'm doing something about the problem.
It feels active.
Right? It feels productive. It feels like work. But the argument here is that it's actually the soul trying to do the spirit's job. It's a boundary violation. You are trying to carry weight that was meant for faith.
And the text connects this directly to the physical and emotional toll it takes. It cites Proverbs and Ecclesiastes to point out that when we don't guard the mind, we lose sleep, and blessings turn into burdens.
Speaking of burdens, the source uses a classic story to illustrate this, the story of Martha and Mary. Now, I have to pause here because, I'll be honest, this story usually annoys me.
Oh, yeah. Why is that?
Because, if you know the story, Jesus comes to visit. Mary just sits at his feet listening. Martha's running around the kitchen trying to feed everyone.
Right.
And Martha gets scolded. But poor Martha is just trying to get dinner on the table. She's doing the actual work. It always feels like a guilt trip for responsible people who actually keep the world running.
You are definitely not alone in that feeling. It's the classic type A frustration with that passage. But this source nuances it in a really helpful way.
Okay.
It points out that the problem wasn't that Martha was working. No. The text says Martha was distracted by details and troubled by tasks. The source argues the contrast isn't between laziness and work. It's between striving and resting.
What's the difference in this context?
Well, Martha was trying to manage the outcome of the dinner, making sure everything was perfect, probably worrying what people thought. Mary was resting in the presence of the guest.
I see.
The source argues that overthinking is that Martha energy. It's the internal chaos of trying to make sure everything holds together by your own effort. You can cook a dinner with a peaceful heart, and you can sit on a couch with a chaotic heart.
So it wasn't about the pots and pans.
No.
It was about the headspace.
Exactly. It's the anxiety of holding it all together.
Okay, I can accept that. Martha energy. I definitely have that. But let's go deeper. We know what it is, meditation without trust. But why do we do it? Because, honestly, Telling me to stop overthinking is like telling me to stop breathing. It feels automatic.
And this is where the source gets really interesting. It claims that the root cause is theological, not just emotional. It lists 4 core reasons why we spiral, and they all come back to where we place our trust.
Let's run through these because I recognize myself in all of them. The first one is fear of the future.
Right. And specifically, the desire for certainty. We overthink because we want to know exactly what's going to happen so we can brace for it. We want the script before we walk on stage.
Which seems reasonable. I want to know if I'm going to lose my job. I want to know if the medical test is negative.
Of course. But the source argues that God never promised certainty.
Wait, really? That feels like a ripoff.
He promised presence. The source references Matthew 6.34 about not worrying about tomorrow. The argument is that we want a roadmap, but God offers a passenger. When we demand certainty before we can feel peace, we are asking for something that isn't on the menu.
That is a huge shift. Replacing the need for knowing what happens with just knowing who is there. Okay, the second reason was the one that really stopped me in my tracks. It talks about orphan thinking versus sonship. Now, those are very churchy terms.
They are.
Can we translate that into normal human behavior?
This is a powerful metaphor, and it works psychologically even if you aren't religious. Think about the mindset of an orphan, someone who has no parents, no guardians, no safety net.
They are entirely on their own.
Right. An orphan has to plan for their own survival. If they don't secure their next meal or find a safe place to sleep, nobody else will. They are hypervigilant because their survival depends 100% on their own performance.
So orphan thinking is basically living in survival mode.
Exactly. It's walking into a meeting and thinking, if I don't dominate this, I'm finished. It's looking at your bank account and thinking, if I don't fix this, I'll be on the street.
Yes.
It's the deep-seated belief that you are ultimately alone in the universe.
Which is terrifying.
It is. Now, contrast that with a child, a son or daughter, in a healthy, loving home. Does a 6-year-old worry about where the grocery money's coming from?
No, they're too busy playing Minecraft.
Right, because they have an underlying assumption of care. They rest in the knowledge that they are provided for. The source cites Romans 8.15, saying that overthinking is essentially reverting to that orphan mindset. It's acting as if you have no father.
Wow. So when I'm spiraling at 3 a.m.,
Yeah.
I'm basically living as if I'm an orphan, even if I claim to believe I'm taken care of.
The source calls this practical atheism.
Practical atheism, that's intense.
It means that theoretically, on paper, you believe you're taken care of. You believe there's a God who loves you. But functionally, in the heat of the moment, you are acting like the CEO of the universe.
You're scrounging for security because you don't really believe help is coming?
Exactly.
That leads right into the third reason, which helps explain how we get stuck doing this. Responsibility versus control, and specifically, the difference between stewardship and sovereignty. Again, big theological words.
Yeah, but crucial.
Break them down for us.
Stewardship is managing what you've been given. It's your jurisdiction.
Okay, so that's my hula hoop.
Exactly. Your effort, your preparation, your words, your attitude, that is your stewardship. You are responsible for that. But sovereignty, that is the outcome.
Give me an example.
Okay, think of a farmer. The farmer can plow the field, plant the best seed, fertilize the soil, and water it. That is stewardship. That is his job. But can the farmer reach into the soil and force the seed to germinate? Can he make the sun shine? Can he stop a hailstorm?
No, that's out of his hands.
That is sovereignty. That's the outcome. The source argues that anxiety comes when we try to grab sovereignty. We aren't content with planting the seed. We want to guarantee the harvest.
We want to guarantee the result.
Yeah.
And because we can't, we spin out.
Precisely. We burn out trying to do a job that was never assigned to us. We are trying to be the weather, not just the farmer.
Man, that is a helpful distinction. I can control my input. I cannot control the output. The fourth reason brings it all home, and it's the most uncomfortable one. Weak trust.
This is the sharpest point in the document. It suggests that deep down, we might believe God is good, but we don't believe he is good enough or wise enough to handle our specific situation.
Like, God, you're great at handling the cosmos and the stars, but have you seen my mortgage? I better handle this one.
Exactly. I better step in. And the source includes a devastating quote from the theologian John Piper here. He says, "Anxiety is unbelief trying to feel productive."
Unbelief trying to feel productive. I hate that quote. I mean, I love it, but I hate it.
It stings, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
Because it strips away the nobility of worry and says we're just spinning our wheels to prove we're doing something. But really, we just don't trust the driver.
It's a failure to rest in promises. It's the heart saying, I must figure this out myself.
Okay, so we've diagnosed the problem.
Yeah.
We are orphans trying to control the future because we don't trust the outcome.
Mm.
It sounds grim when you put it that way.
It does.
But the source doesn't leave us in the pit. It pivots to solutions.
Oh.
And I love that it starts with what it calls a warrior mindset.
Yes. This is crucial. The source completely rejects the excuse of, I'm just wired this way.
Which is my go-to excuse. I'm just an anxious person.
The source says that is not a valid stance for a believer. It references 2 Corinthians 10.5, taking thoughts captive.
No.
The language is aggressive.
It's military.
It is. It's not about gently suggesting your mind calm down. It's about taking authority over it.
So what are the actual tactics? Because I can't just yell, stop it,
Yeah.
at my brain. It doesn't listen.
The source offers 4 very practical strategies. The first one is shifting from rumination to revelation.
Which means?
Instead of meditating on the worst-case scenarios, you meditate on Scripture. But here's the practical hack that I loved. Replace what if with even if.
Okay, walk me through that.
So the spiral usually starts with what if. What if I get laid off? What if this relationship fails? That's the spiral down.
Yeah.
You flip it. Even if I get laid off, God is still good, and He has promised to provide for me. Even if this relationship ends, I am not alone.
Oh, I see. You aren't denying the possibility of the bad thing. You aren't doing toxic positivity.
Exactly. You're facing the fear, but you are putting a floor on it. You're framing it within a bigger truth. It stops the free fall.
That's actionable. Okay, strategy number 2, interrupt the spiral.
This is about using short, honest prayers. The source argues we don't need eloquent speeches when we are panicking. We need a circuit breaker. The example given is, God, I don't know what to do, but you do. I'm releasing this to you right now.
It's almost like snapping a rubber band on your wrist. You just cut the connection to the worry.
Exactly. It forces you to look up instead of looking inward. It reminds you that you aren't the orphan in the room.
Strategy number 3 is my favorite because it involves physically doing something. Cast, don't carry.
This draws on Psalm 55 and 1 Peter. The word cast literally means to throw or heave. It's an active, somewhat violent verb. It's not gently place your burdens, it's heave them.
Like throwing a heavy sack off your back.
Yes. The source suggests a physical exercise. Write down the specific thing you are worrying about on a piece of paper. Be specific. I am worried about X.
Okay.
And then you physically tear it up, shred it, or burn it. And while you do it, you declare out loud, it's not mine to carry.
Why does the physical part matter? Why can't I just do that in my head?
Because we are physical beings. Anxiety lives in our bodies, our shoulders get tight, our stomachs churn. Doing something physical bridges the gap. It signals to your brain that a transaction has taken place.
A formal handoff.
You have formally handed over responsibility.
It's a ritual of release. I like that. And finally, strategy number 4, daily renewal.
This is based on Romans 12.2, renewing the mind. The source points out that our minds are trained by habit. If you spent 20 years practicing anxiety, you're really good at it. You're an expert worrier.
Unfortunately true. I have my PhD in worry.
So you have to retrain it. And the specific rule here is about the first voice. Start the day with Scripture before you check your phone.
Oh, the phone. That's the killer.
Think about it. If the first thing you see in the morning is the news, work emails, or Instagram, what are you feeding your brain?
Comparison, crisis, and stress.
You are priming your brain for orphan mode. You are reminding yourself of everything you need to control. If the first voice you hear is God's truth, you are setting a different baseline for the day. You're reminding yourself of your safety before you face the danger.
It sets the trajectory. If I start with chaos, I'm going to end in chaos. If I start with truth, I have a fighting chance.
Exactly. It's about guarding that input. You can't control the world. You can control the first voice you hear.
You know, looking at all of this, the orphan spirit, the stewardship, the casting, there's this massive theme of surrender. But it's not surrender like I give up and I don't care. It's a very active, almost muscular kind of surrender.
That is a great distinction. It takes strength to let go. The source summarizes this beautifully with a specific mantra. I do not need to understand everything to trust the one who does.
That's the bumper sticker right there. But it is so hard to live that out.
It is. It requires redefining peace. We usually think peace means the absence of trouble.
Right. I'll be peaceful when the bank account is full and the kids are behaving. I'll be peaceful when the storm is over.
And this source argues that peace is the presence of trust in the midst of trouble. It's the calm in the storm, not the absence of the storm.
It reminds me of that Mary and Martha contrast again. Mary had peace in the middle of a busy house because she knew where her attention belonged.
Precisely. She wasn't worried about the kitchen because she was focused on the master. She knew who was in charge.
This has been such a refreshing look at something that plagues so many of us.
Yeah.
I think the concept of orphan thinking is the one that's going to haunt me in a good way.
It's a provocative thought to leave our listeners with. I would challenge everyone listening. In what area of your life are you currently planning for survival like an orphan?
Yeah.
Is it your finances, your kids, your career? Where are you acting as if you are completely alone and unsupported? Where are you playing the role of God because you don't trust him to do it?
That is a tough question to answer, honestly, because the answer usually points to the thing we are most afraid of losing.
It does. But identifying it is the first step to fixing it. You can't cast a burden you haven't identified.
So find the orphan thinking, and then try that casting experiment. Write it down. Tear it up. See what happens when you physically refuse to carry it anymore.
Trust the one who holds the outcome. You handle the stewardship. Let him handle the sovereignty.
I love that. I'm definitely trying the paper tearing trick tonight. Thank you all for diving deep with us today. Hopefully tonight's 3 a.m. spiral will be a little less spirally and a little more peaceful.
Take care.
See you next time.